Hello and welcome, everybody. It is Coach Jackson, and I'm here with another episode of Client Success Stories. I've got Robert here, and Robert has been doing an unbelievable, incredible, fantastic job. Over the last 11 months, Robert's lost 27 pounds, 11% body fat, and taken 4¼ inches off of his waist. He's a newly inducted member to the Action Jackson Fitness Hall of Fame. Robert, say hello to everybody.
Hello. Hello out there.
Tell us who you are and what you do, or whatever kind of personal details you want to share.
All right. I'm 42 years old now. It's started kind of feeling that age creeping up where you start to take Advil more often than not in the mornings, hurting. And I'm a father of one. I have a 9-year-old son, like to coach his sports, try and get him to be as active as I was as a kid. And it keeps you busy. I have a wife who's very involved with her work and very busy, and it just, life gets busy, and then you start seeing yourself in those photos, and it's just like, oh, who's that guy? Just don't want to be in those pictures anymore, and just kind of, life hits you hard sometimes all at once, even when, like, you had a athletic background growing up, and have been active as an adult. It's just kind of, things creep up on you, and it was time to make a change, and I'm really glad I did.
Okay. So obviously you got a lot of responsibilities around you. You have a family, wife and family, little league, this, that, work, other things. And you're getting older and older, starting to notice some aches and pains. Maybe things aren't recovering or happening as fast as you would like them to. And was there a moment, was there like a eureka moment, or was it just sort of a slow grinding, like, I got to change this? Like, what was going on, I guess, mentally with you, and maybe emotionally as well, that you got to this point that you finally said, okay, I need to make a change? Like, what was that like?
Last year was just a really, really busy year with work. I'm a dentist. I own my own business. Baseball season for my son was ending. Just kind of went to a busy summer. Didn't really have a lot of time. Had the TONAL, had the Peloton, treadmill and bike, and wasn't able to get on there as much. Diet wasn't as stringent as I've been at other points in my life. And yeah, I think when I kind of decided to make the change was just kind of seeing some success stories of people posting on the official Tonal community. And I think one client mentioned having some success with Action Jackson Fitness. And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. I like the idea of that because I knew I wasn't going to have time to incorporate like going to the gym, finding that time to do workouts on somebody else's schedule too. And we're going on vacation to Hawaii and downloaded your book and read that on the flights, and then get there in Hawaii and just kind of sitting at the pool, seeing all the other people who are in good shape and all the other people who aren't, and realizing which group I was falling into is kind of really motivating to want to make that change. So
What a moment of self-awareness that you had, right? The self-awareness to kind of acknowledge and be real with yourself and say, this is actually where I'm at right now, and I don't like it. And that's very empowering, though, at the same frame. So it's quite self-aware, but also empowering, because you're the one that got you there. You're the one that can get you out. Now, obviously, I've helped. I kind of act as a guide, if you will. But you still have to do the workouts. You still have to control the foods that you're putting in your mouth. You still have to manage your mindset and all these things, even if you do have help along the way. And it's not easy. You have to put in the work. You've clearly done it. You've done an excellent job. You obviously made an incredible transformation. But wow, that's an empowering, but also just super surreal moment to realize that. I've had my own moments like that where I look at my finances, I know the business I'm trying to create, and I'm like, there is an incongruence here. I'm here, I want to be there, and there's a big gap here. Now I need to do something to change that. So I just want to acknowledge you for actually doing that, and then taking the first step. And then I think the other cool thing is that you see somebody else that's doing something, you say, why not me? If they can do it, maybe I can do it too. There's something really powerful about that frame as well, that I absolutely love. When I would join these, coaching groups or whatever for business, I'd see other people and I'd say, look, they're no smarter than me. They're no more intelligent or better or hardworking. If they're doing it, why can't I do it too? And I think that's really one of the most powerful things about community that you can get is that sort of why not me mentality. And it really just drives you. So that's fantastic. Now, as you kind of made this decision, we have a chat, we kind of talk about things. Okay, I want to get moving. You got all the tools, you got the Tonal, the Peloton, all the convenience fitness options at your fingertips, but you're just not leveraging them. What were those first few days, few weeks, maybe even first few months like for you when you're walking through the fire, when you're trying to make these habit changes? What was that like? Because that for a lot of people is often that make and break point where they get started, they go, whoa, and then they quickly retreat.
It was probably a little different for me than it was for a lot of people because we weren't starting right away. I had a hunting trip where I was going to be out of town, having no control over what my diet was going to be, having limited access to electricity, so knowing I wasn't going to be getting any sort of like designed workouts in with the Tonal, and kind of tried to get things in order a little bit before I was leaving on my hunting trip. And while on my hunting trip, kind of threw off a little bit of a neck injury, and it was kind of panic mode because I was coming back ready to start, I think a day or two after I was back in town, and I was in severe pain. I couldn't lift my arm over my shoulder, and it was just like, no, I'm ready to start. I don't want to lose momentum. I don't want to not succeed at this. And it was tough having to set my start back a few weeks with kind of just doing a lot of chiropractic, a lot of physical therapy, just getting my pain under control so I could start. And then just had a lot of just anxiety and fear that I wasn't going to be able to do it because I was having injuries that were probably caused partly by what I do for a living, but just kind of letting my body get to a place where I shouldn't have let it get to. And I think those first two phases, it was just like, all right, let's try and survive this, not get hurt, and get the ball rolling. And fortunately, I've been able to do that. And those areas that were hurting are feeling better than they have in probably 10, 15 years. So
that's fantastic. How did you manage that from a mindset standpoint, especially in the beginning? Because a lot of people, when something like that comes up, an injury, an issue, an obstacle, something unexpected pops up, they go, oh, this must be a sign from God or the universe or whatever that this is not supposed to work. Like, this is a sign. I'm not supposed to be fit, or it's not for me, or not, people like me can't do this, or people from my family can't do this. I'm too old, whatever the case might be. That's often a trigger for them to find some sort of justification or excuse not to do it. The easy thing there is to say, yep, not for me, too old. I knew it. I knew better than to try to get in shape. What did you do from a mindset standpoint? How did you manage that from like in your head to say, okay, I'm going to do what I need to do to obviously get things right with my neck, but then I'm going to still take the risk, take the jump, the leap of faith to go for this thing anyway.
Yeah, in general, I'm really big on personal accountability. It's what we accomplish. It's what we put into it. Like as a dentist, I have patients who come in, I see them twice a year for their cleanings, and I say, oh, everything looks beautiful. And it's like, well, I've got a great dentist. Thank you. And it's just like, I'm seeing you for 2 hours a year. You're doing it yourself. And then I see people who come in, I come in for my cleanings like twice a year. It's like, well, that's 2 hours out of the year, and the rest of the time's on you. We kind of need to be in charge of our own self. But beyond that, we grow so much better when we're accountable to other people. And like before the program, I was telling my son, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to accomplish. And telling other friends and family, like, yeah, I'm going to undertake this. This is like what I want to do. And it's just like, I try and tell as many people as possible. So you keep that mindset. I don't want to have to tell them, oh, I ended up not doing that, and don't want to have that conversation. So you need to have that personal accountability, but I think it really helps you get through things when you're doing things with other people or letting other people know what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish, because you don't want to have that moment where you're telling them, oh, that nothing came from that. And, oh, I failed miserably. I crashed and burned. I don't want to have those conversations. I definitely don't want to see my son asking about it and say, oh, we got busy, because I don't want him to have excuses. So I'm not going to show him that I'm giving into those either.
Wow. It sounds like, well, I'll comment on that and then I'll ask the question. So I think you're spot on. It would be amazing if all of us had that personal responsibility to just do everything that we need to do all the time without having to, whether it's answer to or feel any sort of obligation to other people. But in reality, especially when you're at the beginning part of a journey or trying to develop some new habits, it can help tremendously to have a little extra accountability to act as a forcing function to get you started. I mean, I think back to when I first quit my consulting job to get my fitness business started and get started in fitness. I didn't do anything for like a year. I got certified and did a lot of studying and a lot of stuff. I did a lot of play business stuff, but I didn't actually get any clients. And it was because I didn't have that forcing function. And then my roommate moved out. I had to pay rent. I had $2,000 in my account. The rent was $4,000. And all of a sudden I didn't have a roommate to pay half of it. And I go, holy cow, I got to get some clients. And I got 2 clients in 1 week when my back was up against the wall. Because now I had to actually take some action. And then it became easy to get more clients and to take action, more action. So it's like my tagline is action is the difference, because it gets you started, but getting started is the most important thing. And however you need to facilitate that, whatever forcing functions you need, I think it can be very beneficial. We had another client named JJ who did an interview like this for us. And I remember he joined the program and he said, he's like, I felt really motivated and to go. He's like, but day one came and I didn't do anything. And then my wife came in and she said, hey, isn't today the first day of the program? Like, aren't you supposed to be like working out or something now? And he's like, oh, I just got busy at work. I'll start tomorrow. And she's like, wow, okay. Like you just spent our family's money to invest in this health and fitness program, to take your health and fitness to a new level and do all these things. And you're just not going to do it. And that was kind of the subconscious communication there. And he's like, I worked out right then and there. I got it done. And then I woke up the next morning at 5 a.m. and started. He's like, having that level of accountability to my wife and my family, and then also knowing that you're going to be following up with me, made me move forward. So I think that's very, very valuable. And it sounds like for you, especially your son, very important in terms of setting that example. And we've heard that from a lot of other clients. How important is it to you to make sure that you're setting an example for your son?
I don't know. I feel kids are really good at trying to find the easiest way to do things at different points. And you just, I don't know, you want to show them the value of working hard, having a goal, accomplishing the goal. And it's going to get a lot harder as you go through life than it is in 4th grade. And you need to know how to work through issues. And it's critical to show a good example for them.
That's quite touching, because it makes me think about my dad and all the examples that he set for me. And my dad's, he's a workaholic. He's a workhorse. Even at 75 years old, I'll give him a call at the end of the day and I'm like, how you doing? What's going on? Oh, I'm just relaxing. I'm kind of, trying to cool down. I'm like, oh, what you been doing all day? He's retired. Well, I've been working all day. I had to paint the fence and cut the grass and clean the pool. And then I had to paint the fountain and then do this and do that and organize the garage. I'm like, my gosh, this guy's just been working all day. And he's 75 and retired. He doesn't need to do a damn thing. He's just, that has been instilled in him. And then he instilled that at me from a very young age. So the getting after it, the practice, whether it's getting up early or staying up late to do things, holding yourself to a higher standard. These are all lessons that I learned from my dad that I still hold today. And my whole life, I kind of feel like I've always just wanted to make him proud by upholding that same standard that he held for me. And as a husband now, looking at my wife and seeing her and how much I love and care about her, I think about my dad's devotion to my mom, and I want to hold that same standard up. That's like now a family tradition for us. And I want to be just as good as he was to my mom. And then hopefully being a father one day, I want to again continue that tradition. So it means a lot. So thank you so much for sharing that. It really does mean a lot. And gosh, I know your son might not appreciate it now, but he sure as hell will some at some point in the future. And it's probably going to be just the best thing in the world when he finally comes back around and says, Dad, thank you so much for the example that just set for me. So thank you. Okay, now you've gone through this transformation. Certainly, again, wasn't easy. There were some challenges. Let's talk a little bit about maybe any other challenges you might have faced along the way. And then we'll get into some of the good stuff and kind of where you're at now and how things have been. So if you had to come up with maybe 2 or 3 challenges, what were those? And again, how did you overcome those? And we could take them one at a time if you want, or you could just go for all 3.
I think just every once in a while you'll go through periods where you don't have time. I think in the spring, while I was kind of finishing up our initial 4 phases, the 16 initial weeks, those were the end of our baseball season. And like when we're coaching baseball, it's like I'm working full time. I'm in a couple study clubs with other dentists and trying to make time for my wife, who works incredibly hard. And it's hard trying to find the time to get those things done that are for me directly when, like, I'm gone for baseball practice. I'm gone for those meetings and I want to get home, but I don't want to be selfish with my time, and just trying to find that balance because like all the time it takes, I don't want to, my wife's making huge sacrifices so I can do this as well. And it's hard trying to balance taking advantage of those sacrifices that she's doing without taking too much advantage of them. And I think balancing the time when life just gets busy was probably the primary challenge. It can be tough. And like when you've got a kid or people who have multiple kids, it's like when you're taking time for you, it's your spouse is like lifting a much heavier burden than before. So I'm really grateful for my wife for helping me get through this, knowing how important it was for me and for my health and well-being as well. So just letting me get through that.
How did you manage that? Did you just have to communicate on, hey, I got this workout, or I got to do this, and is there any way you can cover for me, and then I'll cover for you? Like, how did you kind of manage and communicate through those challenges?
We're really big on schedules. So I like when my new workout calendar loads, I go through right away. I'm looking at my calendars. Like, we're going to have to shift this to this day, do this. My wife knows what days I'm working out. I know what days she's busy. And it's just like, nope, I'm not going to have to do it. A couple times it's like, okay, we're going to have to do 2 workouts on one day and I'm going to be dead that night. And just communication, scheduling, and making sure you're putting forth the time that you know you're going to be able to do it. Because if it's not on the schedule, it's too easy to fall off from happening.
That's a really invaluable piece of advice. So I hope people are listening, because if you don't plan ahead, it's just your time's just gonna get completely taken. And a lot of people think, I'll just figure out when to work out. It'll just happen. It's like, no, it's not going to just happen. Especially if you have kids, you're an entrepreneur, you have your own business, you have all these things that can just suck the time and it'll just disappear. You have to put it on the calendar. You have to put it in your schedule. You have to plan ahead. And only if and when you do those things can you be very effective with your time to squeeze things in. We all have 24 hours. People will look at somebody who's much more productive. I don't know how they possibly do that. And it's just really a planning and preparing, communicating, helping each other out. There's been so many instances where we don't have kids yet, but so many instances where things got busy, works crazy for my wife, works crazy for me. Even just something like taking care of the dog, or when we were, if we're at one of our, like my parents' house or her parents' house, taking care of this, taking care of that, just communicating. So, okay, you can work out now, and then I'm going to work out later, and you're going to cover things now, and then I'll cover them later. Like, those things just need to happen, and it can happen. You just have to put in the little extra prep work to make it happen. So that's a really excellent point. What was maybe another challenge that you faced along the way?
I think other challenges are participating in things that you like are food based, like you're going out to dinner for somebody's birthday, and there's not going to be a lot of good options on the menu, and just trying to figure out what you're doing and working backwards to make sure you can get that all to work with your day. Like last night, we had a team building dinner and like escape room evening with the team. It's like, all right, I know we're going to Benihana. They have their menu on there. I'm like going through figuring out, okay, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have that. I might have this, so I'm going to put it in there. And then, all right, like, how am I going to hit my macros now based on what I'm going to eat for breakfast and that, and just planning. So, because when you're out, you want to be able to participate, not stand out, still have a good time, but not have people worrying. I know it's one of the bigger issues we have. Like if we're trying to figure out, oh, well, we don't have time for dinner. Where are we going to go? My wife, she doesn't want to choose a place with fear that it's going to upset me or just not work with what we're doing. So I don't want to have to be the limiting factor. So it's just making sure, like, if we know we're going to be doing something, plan ahead so I have a little bit of wiggle room. And it's, I don't know, the longer you get at it, the like easier it is to fit a lot of things into your macros and like have a good time and like make little sacrifices here or there. Know the things that it's not a sacrifice. Like for me, I've never been a heavy drinker. It's always kind of interrupted my sleep, and sleep's really important to me. So like I've pretty much just had no problem saying, yeah, I'm not going to drink right now. And it's, for me, that's an easy thing to give up, and people don't question it too much. Okay, you want a beer? Yeah, I'm good.
And it certainly gives you more wiggle room.
Yeah, it gives me a lot more wiggle room in some of the other stuff. And it's
yes,
those type of things. It's good because you kind of know they're going to come up. You'll have an idea of what you're doing, so you can set your plan and then make everything work with what you're doing beforehand. So yeah, I think that's been another challenge, because that's something that it definitely affects the family, because like, oh, where do we want to eat? I don't want to be the limiting factor for them.
Sure. So as you kind of dealt with this challenge, have you just gotten so much better at making sure that you're dialing things in, or knowing what to order, or making adjustments ahead of time or throughout the week to accommodate for that? Is that what happened? Or is it that you're just being more specific and particular about where you're going, or some combination of those two things?
I try not to be too particular on where we're going, because like if there's something that other people want, I don't want to be the one going a little downer. No, we can't go there. It's not going to work. So it's just really made me be a little bit more stringent in the other choices I have. I'm big on meal prep as well. So like I'll grill up a bunch of chicken, vacuum seal it in individual servings, throw it in the freezer. And I have in my freezer at work, I've got about 2 months worth of protein, like individually vacuum sealed, and just like thawing it out. It's like, oh, today's a thigh day. Today's a breast day. I'm going to need to be a little bit lower fat and have a little bit higher protein. And we're going to be doing that. And so it just kind of having different options prepared ahead of time, it just kind of helps me have flexibility when I need the flexibility.
Yeah. The planning and preparing ahead of time is so critical. It doesn't take that long to really do. Let's say you're going to a restaurant like Benihana or something. I actually like Benihana. It's got really good sushi for not too high of a price, which is why I like Benihana. But if you're going to Benihana, let's say, it's just looking at the menu and saying, okay, we're going to be in the grill, or we're going to be in the sushi area. Okay, and then what particular things can I have in that area that are going to kind of roughly fit with what kind of macronutrient profiles I want? It's going to be good high protein, maybe moderate carb. If it's going to be higher carb, okay, I want it lower fat. If it's going to be lower carb, maybe I'm going to need higher fat. And all those things are okay, but it's just a little bit of planning and prepping ahead of time. It takes 5 minutes to look at the menu. You get a good idea. And the more you do these things, the better you will get at them. And a lot of people have these sort of fear, this stigma around, I'm going to show up at a restaurant and people are going to judge me, or I'm going to look dumb or whatever. And that's rarely the case that happens. Most people just generally don't really care about what you're ordering when you're there. Um, and if they do, I mean, that's just strange. So people usually don't care. And it just takes a little planning and prep. And this baseball coach, speaking of baseball, I had a baseball coach, and he used to say, the will to win is not nearly as important as the will to prepare to win. And it's so relevant to this situation because a lot of people think they're going to show up at the Little League World Series and they're just going to win. And it's like, no, 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 that's not how that works. Or you're going to show up at the bottom of I think, bottom of the sixth, right? They play 6 innings or 7 innings. Okay, so bottom of the sixth, you're going to be up there. It's going to be a full count, and somehow you're just going to hit the home run without preparing ahead of time. It's like, no, it's going to take a lot of practice swings for you to get to a point that you're in a situation like that. You're relaxed and comfortable enough to hit the home run in that moment. So you don't rise to you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training. Similarly, you're in a restaurant, you're sitting there. You're not going to magically just come up with a perfect order for you without a little prep work. You're going to have to fall to the level of your training, and that's going to require you to look at that menu ahead of time before you get there, which is, again, just takes 5 minutes, not a big deal, but it goes a long way. Preparing also meals ahead of time, understanding, I think you mentioned this as well, understanding how to think about your macros more so from like a daily and weekly basis even. So, okay, I know that we're going to go out for dinner on Friday, and maybe that dinner is going to be an untracked meal. Totally fine, no problem. Untracked meal there, and we don't know what those macros are going to look like, but I can make some adjustments here to give me some more wiggle room. Maybe I cut down my macros and come 100 calories less Monday through Thursday. That gives me an extra couple hundred calories to play with. Okay, now I have a lot of wiggle room. So if I want to get the steak, not a big deal. If people get dessert and I want to have a couple of spoonfuls of whatever, that's totally fine too. Or have a drink, not a big deal. So it just gives you a lot of things to work with. And the last thing I'll say about this is that life is just full of trade-offs. I used to trade options back in the day. I loved the financial markets, and I had this options trading coach that I hired because I'm big on coaching. And he used to always say, because a lot of smart people in there, a lot of like mathematicians, computer scientists, this is the kind of people that typically get into trading options. And we would always ask, well, what's the best trade? What's the best adjustment? What's the best thing to do? And he'd always start by saying, there is no best thing. It's just a trade-off. Do you want a higher risk and then bigger reward? Do you want a lower risk but a smaller reward? Do you want a trade that's going to potentially succeed 90% of the time but pay you very little? Or do you want a trade that's going to succeed 10% of the time but pay you a whole lot? Everything is just trade-offs. And now I look at everything the same way. So it's like, okay, I can have that meal if I want it. If I want the cheeseburger and fries and dessert, I can absolutely eat that. But then the trade-off is I got to make some other adjustments. Maybe I don't drink that day and have any beers that day. That's totally fine. Or maybe I adjust my macros earlier in the week. Or maybe I make sure I go for a walk when I get home or something. But there has to be some sort of trade-off. And if you do that, you're going to succeed a heck of a lot more than you're going to fail. In one meal, even if it's off, doesn't make or break your entire quote unquote diet week, month, or year. Having one meal that's a little off track, not a big deal if you reclaim those good, healthy habits right afterwards. But so many people, I love this analogy, but I equate it to, it's like, imagine you get a flat tire, you pull over to the side of the road, you slash all 3 other tires, and then you set the car on fire. That's what most people do when it comes to their quote unquote diets, is they're like, oh, I'm going to be perfect. They have one meal that gets a little off track. They go to a restaurant. Maybe they get overwhelmed. Maybe people order dessert. They have too much. Oh, gosh. Well, I might as well now just throw the whole baby out with the bathwater and just scorch the earth because I got a little off track. And the important thing there is to reclaim those habits, to get back on track very quickly. And if you do that, that meal is going to be a blip on the radar. It's not even going to matter. So a lot of really excellent points you brought up there. So thank you for sharing. Now, obviously, you've done really well. As I mentioned, 27 pounds down. You went from 21% body fat all the way down to 10% body fat. You're totally ripped. I mean, you had like a decent amount of belly fat there, just completely gone now. I mean, what's it like being in this position compared to where you were before?
I think that on a daily basis, it's just nice knowing that I'm grabbing a shirt. I'm not going to worry how it's going to fit today. It's nice not waking up and immediately grabbing that bottle of Aleve and knowing that I think I'm going to be a little bit more sore today. I'm going to need this. Whereas, like right now, it's just like I don't know how many pills are left in the bottle of Aleve, and beforehand I would know. It's just like, oh, we're going to need to go get some more in it a little bit, and I know how fast I'm getting through it now. It's nice not knowing that. There's a lot of things I want to know. I'm a metrics guy, so it's just tracking my weight, tracking my food. Like I've tracked my sleep for years, but there's things that I don't need to know and I don't want to know, and I don't want to waste my energy and time on that. And it's nice not having to do that anymore. So yeah, being healthy, looking better is those are all nice, but just like those little concerns are, oh, is I'm going to be going out of town. Are those clothes going to fit me? Maybe I should try them on before I pack. Like not having to have those worries is pretty nice. And every once in a while you get the other surprise, like, oh, this is a little bit baggier than I was expecting. So I think those are some of the bigger things.
Yeah, it's those little things that kind of just rub you every single day wrong that can wear on you the most. The getting dressed in the morning, and I remember speaking to a previous client, and he said every time he would put his belt on his pants, he'd feel his stomach pushing over the belt, and just that little thing every day just really wore on him. Or tucking in his shirt, and he'd have to look in the mirror and just turn, and he'd have to look in like three directions trying to see, did I get the shirt in everywhere? Because again, his stomach was kind of coming over his belt, and it just like every day these little things can really really wear on you. um, a non-health and fitness example, I had this dent in my driver's side door of my car. I drive a Land Rover Discovery, nice car, all black. You know, like most things, it's just impeccable because I take very good care of my stuff. I'm kind of a perfectionist and OCD in that regard. Big surprise to everybody, I'm sure. But had this dent and ding in the door. Don't know how it happened, where it came from. Just one day came up to my car and go, oh my God, there's like this golf ball sized dent in the side. And just seeing it every day, I walked out to my car because it's right there on the driver's side door. Just was like, it just grained on me every day. It was very annoying. And I was just like, ugh. And I kept, convinced, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just a car. Don't worry, Jackson. It's fine. I got a couple estimates for it. And they were giving me these crazy numbers. And some people were like, you should just live with it. It's not a big deal. And for honestly, a couple months, I would see this every day. And it just irked me. And I contacted a friend of my wife's who owns a body shop. He took a look at the photos, was like, yeah, bring it in. We'll be able to fix it. I drove like 2.5 hours to go see him, got it fixed. And now the last couple of days I've been walking past my car. Every time I walk past my car, I don't have that grate on me anymore. I don't have that just annoyance, that little frustration. And it's so incredibly freeing to not have that little annoyance. And I know that's a very, very sort of minor, mundane example with a materialistic object like a car. But these things that happen every day, they wear on us over time. And whether it's your stomach sticking out too far, whether that's the clothes not fitting, whether that's you taking your shirt off at the pool or on vacation or at the beach or whatever, and having that frustration and that feeling of maybe shame or guilt or whatever kind of feelings that are associated with it that are just not pleasant, those things wear on you, and they impact the way that you carry yourself, the way other people treat you and look at you. Then as a result, they impact your confidence, they impact your energy, they impact your relationship with the people around you, your kids, your family, your friends, your coworkers. And I've heard more people share stories like what you just shared of the little things that make the most difference. It's not the big thing like you step on the scale and you're down 27 pounds immediately and then there's this big parade or something. That doesn't happen. It's the little everyday things that are the more pleasantries of the transformation, that, oh, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Oh, that doesn't annoy me anymore. Oh, I don't have to even think about this anymore. Those are the big benefits. It's the little small things that just happen on a daily basis that mean really the most. And I think that's true in life. If you look at a relationship, a marriage, whatever it might be, a business, in a business, it's not the small, big things that happen. It's the little things that you do every day at your dentist practice. It's the hygiene. It's getting the instruments in place. It's the following up with leads. It's doing all those little things on a daily basis that make your practice successful or not. It's not the once in a while where you do a root canal or some major, huge procedure that makes the big difference. So that's another great point. And the last thing I'll actually mention is, like, I've actually worked with a lot of dentists. And if you're a dentist and you're out there, man, your body is so important, like even more so than a lot of people in other professions, because it's such a physical job. And I never realized this until I got into coaching and training and worked with a few dentists. But man, you have a physical job, very, very physical. And your income and everything really depends on your ability to do the work physically. I remember when I was a kid, I had an orthodontist, and this is very tragic and sad, but he ended up, grew up in Chicago. He ended up trying to get something that was stuck in a snowblower, and that did not end well. And he hurt his hand quite significantly and had to sell and shut down the practice. I mean, that's, again, an extreme example, but your job is so physical. Your body is so important to you. So keeping it in tip-top shape, keeping it injury-free, keeping yourself in good peak conditioning is so important. Have you noticed any difference there in terms of your physicality and your ability to just do your job?
Oh, absolutely. I've always said that, like, we've got so many hours that our bodies can do dentistry, and you see older dentists who are working and they have horrible posture now, like necks like permanently stuck forward. They're in pain with their upper back every single day, lower back too, because most of the job is sitting. And it's just, I don't want to be like that when I'm at retirement age. I want to be able to do what I want to do and not be having that pain. And I don't know, just the more I focus on just getting my body right, I feel the better I am with focusing on ergonomics too. It's kind of like you're saying, when things are off track a little bit, it's easy to let everything go. And when you're on track, it's a lot easier I want to do everything right. These little things that I wasn't doing before, I can do those little things now too, because they're little things. You can make those little improvements and get a big payoff from those. So I don't know, I feel I've been a lot more focused on my ergonomics, my positioning, and just kind of being a little bit more stubborn and like positioning patients where, oh, I don't want to lay it back that far. It's like, well, you're going to need to, because I don't want to hurt for the next 2 weeks. And you may feel like you're reclined a little bit for 5 minutes, if that. But if I don't do that, I'm going to hurt for the next 2 weeks. And it's like my body's important to me, and it's important to be there for my son, the team I'm coaching, and just be able to do the things around the house so my wife doesn't have to do even more than she's already doing. And yeah, it's a big deal. It's not an obviously physical position in people's minds, but like, your body hurts like if you're not taking care of it very easily in dentistry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Robert, I want to be respectful of your time. I want to say thank you and just acknowledge you for trusting us, for investing in yourself, putting in so much hard work and making such an incredible transformation. But more importantly than the transformation that you made, just inspiring people around you, setting that example for your family, setting the example for the people in the community, and your patients, the people that you work with. Your journey matters, and it matters more than we often think it does. People have definitely taken notice, and I, for one, just really want to say thank you and how much I appreciate you. Really does mean a lot to me. Again, you made an incredible transformation, and the best part is that you've kept it up. So a lot of these interviews we do are usually after around 4 months or so. We're 11 months in this journey, and you're still going strong, and you've still been improving, which is why I wanted to bring you on, because you've just done an incredible job for a long period of time and converted this really into a lifestyle, which is what we want for people. So thank you again. Any final thoughts, lessons learned, things you want to share with people out there before we kind of wrap things up?
No, I think the main thing is it's good to stick with the things that are hard. At no point has any of this been easy. So I sent you a message or the app a little bit ago, like thanking you for like the hardest workout I had like in the entire 10 months of the program, like a few weeks ago. And it's just like, you don't do those things on your own. You don't push yourself as hard as you can, as hard as you're capable to be pushed on your own. So like, I can't thank you enough. The community on the Facebook group, it's just really motivating to see what other people are doing, see their transformations, know what you want for yourself and going to go get it. So, no, it's just been a fantastic experience. One of the better decisions I've ever made in my life. And like, I don't have enough thanks that I can give to you and the Facebook group just for making it easy to stay on track and making something I really enjoy. Like at the end of the day, being able to go get my workout and know that I'm accomplishing something and doing it in a time frame that if I was trying to do those things on my own, I might get the workout done, but it's not going to be efficient. I'm not going to be doing it ideally, and I'm not going to be getting anywhere near the same results. So thank you.
Well, thank you again, Robert. I think people are definitely waking up and recognizing that you do hard things, you're going to get a great outcome and a result from them. And more importantly, the way you feel about yourself and that example that you set to other people is going to be just absolutely positive and tremendous. So you're a big part of that. Thank you again. And everybody remember, action is the difference between dreaming and succeeding. We will see you in the next interview.